Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales come to life. Enjoy the journey. The cargo ship Rust Bucket screamed through Dust Haven's atmosphere, engines shrieking like metal tearing. Arthur Reeves gripped the control stick with white knuckles, fighting the ship's death spiral while alarms wailed their urgent warnings. "Come on, you piece of—" The port engine exploded with a thunderous crack, sending the ship into a violent spin. Orange sand and blue sky whirled past the cockpit window in a dizzying dance. The landing gear hit first, a terrible grinding crunch. The ship belly-flopped into a sand dune with a bone-rattling impact, skidded 300 meters with the sound of tearing metal, and finally came to rest. Something creaked, then silence. Arthur hung upside down in his harness for a moment, blood pounding in his ears. "Any landing you walk away from," he muttered, releasing the buckle. He crashed to what used to be the ceiling with a grunt. 20 minutes later, his boots crunched on the dusty main street of New Tombstone, dragging a salvage bag behind him. The town sprawled before him in all its confused glory, solar panels glinting atop wooden saloons, horses tied next to hover bikes, digital wanted posters flickering beside hand-painted ones. The rusty asteroid's neon sign buzzed and sparked overhead as Arthur pushed through the creaking door. The sudden shade was a relief, though the air reeked of stale beer and ozone. "Told you 3 times, Grax. You pay your tab, or you don't drink." The woman's voice carried steel beneath its musical quality. She stood behind the bar with arms crossed, purple-skinned like he'd heard Valerians were, with silver hair that caught the dim light. The customer, a Dralaxian with too many teeth, leaned across the bar. "Maybe we work out alternative payment, yes? You lonely widow, me lonely—" "You're gonna be lonely and toothless if you finish that sentence." Her voice dropped dangerously low. "Mom, he's being mean again." A small head popped up suddenly from behind the bar. A child, maybe 8, with the same purple skin and silver hair tied in pigtails with rainbow ribbons. The Dralaxian laughed, an ugly sound like grinding gears. "What you do, little purple girl? Bite my ankles?" Arthur dropped his salvage bag with a deliberate thud. The bar went silent. He walked forward, each boot step heavy and measured on the wooden floor, until he stood behind the Dralaxian. Then he cracked his knuckles. The sharp pop echoed in the quiet bar. The alien turned, looked up, and up at Arthur's 6'2" frame. "The lady said you owe money," Arthur said quietly. "On Earth, we have a saying, pay your debts or pay your dentist, though looking at those teeth, I'm guessing you've been skipping both." The Dralaxian's throat sac inflated with a wet, threatening sound. Arthur just raised an eyebrow. "You want to do this dance, friend? Because I just crash-landed a ship worth more than this entire bar. I'm covered in carcinogenic engine fluid, and I haven't had coffee in 3 days. You'd be doing me a favor by giving me something to hit." The alien deflated with a wheeze. Credits clattered on the bar, and Grax scurried out, muttering curses in 3 languages. The woman's posture relaxed slightly. "Coffee's terrible here." There was amusement in her voice now. "Everything's terrible here." Arthur gestured at the window, where wind rattled the glass. "That's kind of the charm." The little girl had climbed onto a bar stool with a scrape of wood. She studied him intently. "You're really tall and dirty, and you smell like a crashed spaceship." "Aria!" The mother's voice went high with embarrassment. "What? He does!" Arthur laughed, surprising himself. Kid's got a point. Arthur Reeves, professional crasher of spaceships and smeller of terrible things. "T," the woman said, not offering a last name. "This is my daughter, Aria." "Like the song?" Arthur asked. "Like the constellation on Valeria," T corrected, then paused. "You know about Valerian constellations?" "I know exactly 3 things about Valeria. You have purple people, 70-hour days, and coffee that could strip paint." Our coffee is an acquired taste, T said defensively, her voice sharpening. So is dying, but I'm not in a hurry to try that either. Arya giggled, bright as wind chimes. You're funny. Are all humans funny? No, most of us are actually pretty boring. I'm special. Special like unique or special like needs help? T asked, pouring a glass of something amber. The liquid glugged into the glass. Yes, Arthur said, accepting the drink. It burned going down, but in a good way. My ship's about 2 kilometers that way if there's a mechanic in town who works with Earth Tech. Old Ratchet might help, if he's sober, which means you're out of luck until next Tuesday. T wiped down the bar with practice swipes. Where were you headed? Titan Station, eventually. Had a cargo of medical supplies, but half of it's scattered across your desert now. Medical supplies? T's voice caught slightly. What kind? Basic stuff mostly. Antibiotics, synthetic plasma, neural stabilizers. He stopped as T went very still. You okay? Fine. She turned away quickly, glasses clinking as she busied herself with them. Arya tugged on Arthur's sleeve. Mr. Arthur, is it true Earth has chocolate rain? What? No, kid. Where'd you hear that? Jim Lee at school said Earth is made of chocolate and humans eat it, and that's why you're brown instead of purple. Arthur looked at his tanned arm, then at Arya's earnest face. Jim Lee's an idiot. Arthur! T spun around so fast the glasses rattled. What? He is! Earth isn't made of chocolate. We have chocolate fountains, though. Arya gasped. Really? Really. Big ones. At parties and stuff. Can you bring me one? Please, please, please. She bounced on her stool, making it squeak. Arya, leave the man alone. He's got his own problems. It's fine, Arthur said, surprising himself again. Tell you what, kid. I'm stuck here while my ship gets fixed. You keep me company. I'll teach you some Earth games. Really? The stool squeaked again as she bounced harder. Really? Over the next week, Arthur became a fixture at the rusty asteroid. Mornings, he'd help old Ratchet, who was neither old nor particularly ratchety, repair his ship. Afternoons, he'd sit at the bar, playing cards with Arya while T worked. You can't put a +4 on a +4, Arthur explained for the third time. But they're both 4s, Arya protested, her skin flickering orange with frustration. Different kinds of 4s. That's stupid. That's the rule. Earth rules are stupid. Most rules are stupid. We follow them anyway. T watched from behind the bar, trying not to smile. Her skin had been lighter lately, more lavender than purple, especially when Arthur was teaching Arya something new. You're good with her, she said during a quiet moment while Arya was in the back room, hunting for more candy to use as poker chips. She's a good kid, asks a million questions, but good. Her father used to say that, said her curiosity would either make her a genius or get her killed. The past tense hung in the air like dust motes. Arthur didn't push. In his experience, people talked when they were ready, not before. Mining accident, T said finally. 3 years ago, tunnel collapsed. They said it was instant. I'm sorry. She shrugged, but her skin darkened. It's a mining planet. These things happen. Arya burst back through the door, arms full of candy that went everywhere when she tripped over her own feet. I'm okay. The candy's okay. Everything's okay. Arthur helped her pick up the scattered sweets. You sure you're not part tornado? Mom says I'm part disaster, part miracle. Sounds about right. They played pirates that afternoon, using bar stools as ships and dish towels as flags. Arya insisted on being the pirate captain who rescued princes instead of princesses. Because princes are useless, she explained. They just sit in towers combing their hair. Princesses know how to fight. Who told you that? Mom did. She says princesses have to be tough because nobody else is going to save them. Arthur glanced at T, who was very deliberately not looking at them, Her skin a shade of purple he was starting to recognize as embarrassed. "Your mom's smart," he said. "The smartest. She knows everything. She even knows why the stinky man keeps coming here but won't tell me." "What stinky man?" Before Arya could answer, the bar door slammed open. A man walked in, if you could call him a man. He was tall for a half-breed, with the purple-tinged skin of Valerian heritage, but the broader build of human stock. His clothes cost more than most people's houses, and he wore enough cologne to fumigate a small moon. "Sweet tea," he said, and Tea's skin went dark as midnight. "How's my favorite widow?" "Corvus," Tea's voice could have frozen helium. "The usual? You know me so well?" He slid onto a stool with practiced ease, his eyes never leaving T. 2 months, 17 days. But who's counting? T poured his drink, something green that bubbled, and her hand shook slightly. Corvus noticed Arthur then, his expression shifting from smug to calculating. "New friend, T? Doesn't look like your type." "He's a customer." "Hmm?" Corvus sipped his drink. "Customers don't usually play pirates with the merchandise." "I'm not merchandise," Arya piped up. "I'm a person." "Of course you are, little one." Corvus's smile was all teeth, no warmth. "For now." Arthur felt his hands clench. "Something you want to say, friend?" "Friend?" Corvus laughed. "Humans, always so quick to claim friendship. You'll be gone in a week, friend. But some of us have to live here. Some of us have responsibilities, obligations." His eyes went back to T. "Don't we, sweet T?" "Your drink's paid for," T said flatly. "You can go." Corvus stood, straightened his expensive jacket. 2 months, 17 days. I'm a patient man, but not that patient. He headed for the door, then paused. "Nice meeting you, human. Enjoy your stay, however brief." After he left, the bar felt smaller somehow. Arya pressed against her mother's side. "Mom, why does the stinky man keep coming here?" "Don't worry about it, baby." But Arthur saw the way T's hands shook as she cleaned Corvus's glass, saw how her skin stayed dark long after he'd gone. He didn't know what hold the man had on her, but he recognized fear when he saw it. 3 days later, old Ratchet declared the ship fixed, or as fixed as that pile of scrap ever gonna be. Arthur stood in the bar, his repaired ship waiting outside, watching Arya build a house of cards with the intense concentration of a bomb diffuser. "Don't breathe," she whispered. "Don't even think about breathing." "I have to breathe, kid. It's kind of essential." "Then breathe quieter." The tower fell anyway. Arya's skin flashed through several colors of frustration before settling on resigned purple. "I'm leaving tomorrow," Arthur said. The words hit like a physical blow. Arya's skin went pale, almost gray. But you just got here." "My ship's fixed. I've got deliveries to make." "Can't someone else make them?" "That's not how jobs work, princess." "I'm not a princess. I'm a pirate captain, remember." But her voice was small, defeated. T emerged from the back room, having clearly heard everything. Her skin was carefully neutral. "It's fine, Arya. We knew he was just passing through." "But who's gonna play pirates with me? Who's gonna teach me Earth games?" "You can teach the other kids," Arthur suggested. "It's not the same." Arya's eyes filled with tears. "You're the only one who plays right." Arthur knelt down to her level. "Hey, look at me." She did, reluctantly. "I'll come back. Promise." "When? Tomorrow?" "Maybe a couple months, but I'll bring real Earth chocolate." "You promise?" "I promise." "Pinky promise?" She held out her tiny purple pinky, so small and delicate it looked like it might break if he breathed too hard. Arthur linked his pinky with hers, the contrast between human tan and Valerian purple stark in the bar's dim light. Pinky promise. The next morning came too soon. Arthur loaded the last of his salvage cargo, trying not to think about how empty the cockpit would feel without Arya's constant questions. T stood by the boarding ramp, Arya clinging to her hand. T's skin was doing something complicated, purple and pink and silver all at once. "Take care of yourself, courier boy." "You too, bar lady." She hugged him then, quick and fierce, and for a moment he smelled that alien cinnamon scent of her hair. She pulled back before he could properly respond, her skin flushing deep purple. Arya tackle-hugged his legs. "Don't forget, real chocolate." "How could I forget? You've only reminded me 900 times." 901 now." He ruffled her silver hair, then climbed into his ship. As the engines warmed up, he saw them through the viewport, T with her arm around Arya, both waving. He waved back, then lifted off, the ship surprisingly smooth now that it wasn't held together with prayer and duct tape. He was barely into the atmosphere when his comm crackled with Arya's voice. She must have snuck into the control tower. "Mr. Arthur, I'm making a sign for where you landed, so you know where to park when you come back." "That's smart thinking, Princess." "I'm not a princess." "Right. Sorry, Captain." "That's better. Bye, Mr. Arthur. Don't crash anymore." "I'll do my best." The comm went quiet. Below, New Tombstone shrank to a dusty spot on a dusty planet, indistinguishable from 1,000 other frontier towns. But somewhere down there, a little purple girl was making a sign for him, and a silver-haired woman was probably telling her not to use the good paint. Arthur pushed the throttle forward, already calculating how quickly he could make his deliveries and come back. 2 months, he'd said. He could do it in less if he pushed hard, skipped the usual rest stops. He didn't know about Valerian laws or 5-year deadlines, didn't know about Corvus's plans or T's desperation. All he knew was that he'd made a promise to a little girl with purple skin and too much faith in humans. Pinky promises, his mother used to say, were sacred, even to space pirates disguised as 8-year-old girls. Day 87. Paper crumpled in Arthur's fist, his cargo manifest now useless. Jupiter Station's Port Authority had impounded his ship for irregular documentation, code for "you didn't bribe the right people." Through the grimy station window, engines roared as ships left for the outer colonies, each departure adding another day to his broken promise. 2 more weeks minimum, the clerk said, her fingers clicking across her screen, unless you want to expedite. How much to expedite? More than you've got, courier boy. Arthur's hand went to his pocket, feeling for credits that weren't there. In his mind, he could see Arya's purple pinky wrapped around his. 2 months, he'd promised. He was already 3 weeks late. Day 92. The telescope lens fogged under Arya's breath. Another ship's engines thundered through Dusthaven's atmosphere and her heart jumped, then sank. Wrong shape, wrong sound, not the rust bucket. He's just running late, she told the telescope, which had become her confessor. Space is big. There's traffic, like when Mom gets stuck behind the cargo haulers on delivery day. T watched from the bar window, polishing a glass that didn't need it. Her daughter had dragged a wooden crate to the corner with a scraping sound that drew complaints from neighbors. The sign, Arthur's landing spot, no parking, had been repainted 4 times, each version more elaborate than the last. Arya, dinner's ready. 5 more minutes. It was always 5 more minutes. T set the glass down harder than necessary, the sharp clink echoing her frustration. She knew better than to believe in traveling humans who made promises. But watching hope die in her daughter's eyes would be worse than her own disappointment. Yesterday, Corvus's boots had clicked across her floor with deliberate slowness. 104 days until you're mine, he'd said, his fingers drumming against the bar. Has your human sent word? No? They never do, sweet T. They never do. Day 100. Happy 100 days. Arya's voice rang out to the empty sky. Paper rustled as she held up a hand-drawn certificate that read, 100 Days of Excellent Waiting by Arya. She'd drawn stars around the edges and a surprisingly accurate sketch of Arthur's ship in the corner. 3 other kids had joined her vigil, street orphans whose feet shuffled in the dust as they waited for someone else's miracle. "Maybe he's dead," suggested Pip, a half-Drelaxian boy whose scales clicked when he moved. "He's not dead," Arya said firmly, her voice sharp with certainty. "Dead people can't keep promises, and he promised." "My dad promised to come back too," said another kid, kicking a stone. "That was 2 years ago." "Arthur's different." "How do you know?" Arya couldn't explain it. She just knew. The same way she knew when rain was coming by the change in the wind, or when Mom was sad by the way she hummed off-key. Arthur had meant his promise. She'd felt it in the way his pinky had squeezed hers, careful but firm. "He'll come," she said. "You'll see." Day 101. Bootsteps echoed against the bar's wooden floor, heavy, measured, final. The enforcement officers flanked Corvus, their pulse sticks humming with barely contained energy. T's hands trembled as she cleaned the same glass for 10 minutes, the squeaking of cloth on glass growing more frantic. "Time's up, T." Papers slapped against the bar as Corvus placed the documents down. "Sign the marriage contract, or I take you by force. Valerian law is clear." "Mom?" Arya's voice came small from the doorway, her stuffed rabbit's button eyes catching the light. "What's happening?" "Nothing, baby. Go back to your room." "She should stay," Corvus said, his chair creaking as he leaned back. "She should understand how the world works, how promises get broken, how humans don't come back." The pen scratched across paper, each letter of T's name sounding like a nail in a coffin. "But my daughter stays free." "Of course." Papers rustled as Corvus folded them with precision. "I'm not a monster, just a businessman. The wedding will be in 404 days. Tradition demands a proper engagement period." After their footsteps faded, T found Arya at her corner, the telescope creaking as she adjusted it toward empty sky. "He's coming," Arya said without turning around. "He promised." T couldn't tell her daughter that some promises were just pretty lies adults told to children. So she sat on the crate beside her, wood groaning under their combined weight, and helped her look for ships that wouldn't come. Day 156. Hammer met nail as Arya constructed her corner command center. A tarp flapped between 2 poles in the desert wind. The stolen radio from Old Ratchet's shop crackled to life as she turned the dial. "Unidentified cargo vessel, this is Dusthaven Control. Please state your business." "Control, this is the Lucky Strike, carrying mining equipment." Static. Not Arthur. Never Arthur. Footsteps approached, the street kids arriving for their daily meeting of Arthur's Return Club. Paper rustled as Arya spread out a hand-drawn map of New Tombstone across a makeshift table. "We need to be ready," she told them, tapping the map with her finger. "When he comes back, things are going to happen fast." "What kind of things?" Pip's scales clicked as he shifted nervously. "Important things, rescue things, hero things." The truth was, Arya didn't know. But late at night she heard her mother crying through the thin walls, muffled sobs that she tried to hide. She'd heard Corvus's threats, his footsteps always too heavy, his laughter always too cold. Day 203. Bottles clinked as T poured drinks with mechanical precision, each movement sharp and angry. In the storage room, another of Corvus's shipments sat spoiled. Expensive wine turned to vinegar, the bottles popping their corks with sad little sighs. "Unfortunate," she'd said when Corvus's voice had risen to a roar. "These technical failures, so unpredictable." Her lockpicks clicked softly in the night, skills her late husband had taught her when they were young and foolish. Now wires sparked as she reversed them, sensors beeped their recalibration. Nothing traceable, nothing provable. Corvus suspected, his footsteps circling her bar like a predator. But suspicion wasn't proof, and even he wouldn't risk harming his future wife without cause. The marriage contract rustled in her pocket. Very specific about that. Day 298. Machines beeped in the medical bay as Arthur woke, his head pounding like a drum solo. The ship's engines hummed beneath him. Wrong ship, wrong sound. The last thing he remembered was glasses clinking at a bar on Ganymede. "You're awake." The medic's stylus tapped against his tablet. "Pirates sold you to us as surplus cargo. You're lucky. Captain's heading to the outer rim. Can drop you at Dusthaven in maybe 2 months." 2 months? The bed creaked as Arthur tried to sit up, failed, tried again. "I need to get there now. It's been... How long was I out?" 3 weeks, give or take. Pirates kept you sedated. Easier to transport that way. The math hit him like a physical blow. Over 300 days. His promise was so broken it had shattered into atoms. "I'll work." His voice cracked with desperation. "I'll scrub every deck on this ship. Just get me there faster." "Not my call, friend, but you can talk to the captain. Fair warning, she doesn't like sob stories." Day 401. Paper rustled in the morning wind as wedding announcements appeared on every surface in New Tombstone. Arya's hands made ripping sounds as she tore down every poster she could reach, but more appeared, always more. That night, bottles clinked in the alley as Corvus's men drank. Their voices carried through the thin walls. "After the wedding, the woman will have an accident. Boss doesn't want a wife who might inherit his empire." "What about the kid?" "Orphanage. Maybe sold off-world if she's troublesome." Arya's back pressed against the wall, her breathing quick and shallow. She might be 8, but she understood enough. Corvus wasn't just taking her mom. He was going to kill her. Her feet pounded against dirt as she ran to her corner. The radio crackled as she pulled it close with shaking hands. "Arthur," she whispered into the static, "if you can hear this, please come back. Please. The stinky man's gonna hurt Mom, and I'm too small to stop him. I tried to be brave like you said pirates should be, but I'm just a kid and I'm scared and I need you to keep your promise because I don't know what else to do." The radio crackled back, just static and silence and the sound of her own tears hitting the dirt. Day 456. Fabric rustled as T stood in the wedding dress Corvus had sent. It fit perfectly. Someone had been watching, measuring. "You look beautiful, Mom," Arya said, but her voice sounded hollow, like an echo in an empty room. Her telescope had gathered dust. She'd stopped watching 2 weeks ago. "Thank you, baby." "Are you really going to marry him?" Knees creaked as T knelt, her hands cupping her daughter's face. Sometimes adults have to do things they don't want to protect the people they love. "That's stupid." "Yes," T agreed. "It is." Footsteps retreated as Arya pulled away. Arthur would have stopped this. "Arthur's not coming, baby." "You don't know that." "It's been 456 days, Arya. He's not... He promised." The scream tore from Arya's throat, raw and desperate. Her feet slapped against the floor as she ran, leaving T alone with the rustle of a dress that felt like a shroud. Day 500. The rust bucket hit the ground hard, metal groaning, bouncing twice before settling with a final shudder. The hatch hissed open before the engines even stopped whining. Arthur's boots hit the ground running. A small body slammed into him with the force of a tiny meteor. "You're late! 500 days late!" Small fists pounded against him while arms wrapped around him, Arya crying and hitting and holding on all at once. "Arya, I'm so sorry. Space police thought I was smuggling. Then pirates stole my ship. Then I got food poisoning on Jupiter Station. Then... I don't care." She pulled back and Arthur could hear the exhaustion in her voice, see the red-rimmed eyes. "Mom's in trouble. The stinky man is making her marry him in 5 days. The relief at seeing her vanished. "What? Words tumbled out in a rush. Corvus! He made her sign papers, and there's going to be a wedding, and I heard his men say they're going to hurt her after, and where is she? He locked her in his big house. I tried to rescue her, but I'm too small to reach the window, and the door has a lock that beeps for his handprint, and I tried everything, but hands gripped her shoulders gently. Hey, breathe. We're going to fix this. How? I don't know yet, but we will. Cloth scraped as Arya wiped her nose on her sleeve. I have a plan. Of course you do. Her hand grabbed his, pulling him to her corner command center. Papers rustled as she showed him maps, schedules, and a cardboard model that wobbled but stood. I made a plan. Look. Papers covered in kids' drawings scattered across the makeshift table. Arya, this is just scribbles, and is that a dinosaur? That's Corvus. See the stinky lines? Now listen. Words poured out with the enthusiasm of someone who'd been planning alone for too long. The plan unfolded: chaos, misdirection, and Valerian law. You read Valerian law books? Well, Pip read them to me. Some of the words were really big. Despite everything, Arthur laughed, the sound surprising them both. When did you get so smart? I had 500 days to practice. Her voice dropped. You really were coming back. Every day I was trying to get here, every single day. I knew it, she whispered. Everyone said I was stupid, but I knew it. Arms wrapped around her again. Over her shoulder, the weathered sign stood firm. Arthur's landing spot. Faded but unbroken. Okay, Captain, he said. Let's hear this plan properly. We've got a wedding to crash. Her laugh was pure mischief. You should probably take a shower first. You smell worse than Corvus. That's physically impossible. Trust me, it's not. They had 5 days to pull off the impossible, but Arthur had traveled 500 days to keep a promise, and Arya had waited 500 days believing he would. Compared to that, stealing a bride from a crime lord seemed almost easy. Almost. The priest's robe smelled like mothballs and broken dreams. Arthur tugged at the collar. Apparently, Father Marcus of the Universal Church of Convenient Marriages had been a much smaller man, and possibly deceased, judging by the suspicious stains. Stop fidgeting, Arya whispered from inside the supply cart. Priests don't fidget. How would you know? I watch videos. You're supposed to look holy and constipated. That's the same face? Pretty much. Arthur pushed the cart through Corvus's compound gates. The guards barely glanced at him. Wedding preparations had turned security into chaos. Caterers argued with decorators, musicians tuned instruments badly, and someone had released doves that were now defecating on everything with remarkable accuracy. Papers, a guard grunted. Arthur produced the forged documents Pip had made using a stolen printer and remarkable artistic talent. Father Marcus, here to perform the sacred union. Thought Corvus hired that Andromedan guy. Food poisoning. Tragic. Those Andromedans can't handle Dusthaven cuisine. The guard snorted. Can't handle much of anything. Go on through. The main courtyard had been transformed into what looked like someone had vomited wealth and forgotten to clean up. Purple silk draped everything. Holographic angels flickered in and out of existence, and an ice sculpture of Corvus stood 10 feet tall, already melting in the heat and looking increasingly like he was crying. If you hear me say banana sandwich, that means run, Arthur whispered to the cart. That's silly. Why banana sandwich? Because no one expects banana sandwich. No one expects lots of things, like purple elephants or singing toilets. Arya, just, if I say it, run, okay? Okay, but it's still silly. Arthur parked the cart behind the altar, positioning it for quick access. Through the compound's windows, he could see T in an upstairs room, her silver hair pinned up, wearing white that made her purple skin look like twilight. Places! Corvus's voice boomed across the courtyard. The man himself strutted out wearing a suit that cost more than most planets' annual budgets. His cologne arrived 3 seconds before he did. "You must be the replacement priest." "Father Marcus." Arthur kept his voice low, hoping it sounded holy rather than like someone who'd been punched in the throat by life. "Good. The bride's being retrieved. Try not to bore everyone to death." "I'll do my best." Corvus's eyes narrowed slightly. "You sound familiar." "I have one of those voices, very common, like bread or dirt." "Right." Corvus moved to the altar, adjusting cufflinks that could feed a small colony for a year. Guests filled the courtyard, a mix of crime lords, corrupt officials, and people who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else but couldn't refuse the invitation. Arthur recognized some from the bar, their purple skin various shades of uncomfortable. Then T appeared. 2 guards flanked her, making it clear this was less bride and more prisoner. Her skin had gone the pale lavender of resignation, but her eyes burned with fury that could melt steel. She saw Arthur at the altar and stopped so suddenly the guards nearly crashed into her. Arthur gave the tiniest shake of his head. "Trust me." T's skin flickered through several colors before settling on confused purple. She let the guards lead her forward. "Dearly beloved," Arthur began, his voice cracking like puberty had come for a second round. He cleared his throat. "And, not so beloved. We gather here to witness this totally legal thing." Corvus's eye twitched. Father Marcus seems nervous. "Big crowd," Arthur managed. "Very holy occasion. Much sanctity." Someone coughed. A dove pooped on the ice sculpture's head. "The union of marriage," Arthur continued, desperately trying to remember anything from his cousin's wedding, "is like a ship and space. The ship goes through space, and sometimes there's turbulence, but the ship keeps shipping." T's lips twitched. Was she trying not to laugh or scream? "Get to the vows," Corvus hissed. "Right, yes, the vows. Do you, Corvus Blade, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded—" "Wait, I object!" Arya burst from the cart like a purple jack-in-the-box, her dress covered in packing peanuts. The crowd gasped. Guards reached for weapons. Corvus's face went through several interesting colors, none of them healthy. "Children can't object," Corvus snarled. "But I can show this." Arya held up her toy recorder, the one shaped like a pink bunny with one ear chewed off. She pressed its belly. Corvus's voice filled the courtyard. "After the wedding, the woman will have an accident. Make it look like she slipped. Can't have a wife who might inherit my empire." Silence fell like a dropped anvil. "That's fake," Corvus said quickly. "Obviously fake. Children and their toys." "Should I play the part where you talk about selling me to the off-world orphanages?" Arya asked innocently. "The purple brat will fetch good money. That's what you said, right?" The Valerian officials who'd come to witness the ceremony shifted uncomfortably. One stepped forward. "This is concerning, Mr. Blade." "It's nothing. The child is lying." "The bunny doesn't lie," Arya said solemnly. "Mr. Floppykins always tells the truth." "You named the recorder Mr. Floppykins," Arthur muttered. "He looked like a Mr. Floppykins." "This is ridiculous," Corvus snapped. "I demand—" "You demand nothing." The lead official, an elderly Valerian woman whose skin rippled with authority, approached the altar. "The ceremony is suspended pending investigation. All parties must provide identification for the legal record." Arthur felt his stomach drop to somewhere around his ankles. "Father Marcus, Universal Church," he tried. "Full identification, genetic scan." The official produced a scanner. No way out. Arthur sighed so deeply it came from his soul's basement. "Arthur Maximilian Reeves III." The words felt like pulling teeth. "My dad owns Reeves Logistics." "Yes, that Reeves. The one with the stations in every major system. I'm the runaway heir who faked his death 3 years ago because I didn't want to marry Senator Walsh's daughter who collected exotic pets and thought poor people were a different species." The courtyard went so quiet you could hear the doves reconsidering their life choices. T turned to him slowly. Wait, you're rich rich? The kind of rich where they name moons after you? Surprise. Arthur shrugged. I mean, technically they named a moon after my grandfather, but I served you bottom shelf whiskey. I made you fix my broken freezer because I couldn't afford a repair tech. To be fair, that freezer was held together by hope and expired warranty cards. T laughed, actually laughed, bitter and bright. Tiana Silverwind of House Moonrise, seventh in line to inherit the largest rare mineral rights in the Outer Rim. I ran away to marry a mechanic because I loved how his hands looked when he fixed things, and he made me laugh when my parents said laughing was undignified. Arya's jaw dropped so far it nearly hit the altar. We're all secretly rich? Why do we eat beans from cans? Why does my best dress have a patch on the butt? Because money doesn't buy happiness, baby. But it could buy better beans, the not expired kind. Corvus had gone the color of spoiled milk. His hands shook. The official scanners confirmed the identities, and with each beep, he seemed to shrink. I kidnapped 2 noble heirs? His voice cracked like Arthur's had earlier, but with more existential terror. The Galactic Council will execute me. They'll execute me twice. They'll bring me back just to execute me again. He bolted, or tried to. Arya had positioned her toy spaceship, the one Arthur had fixed months ago, right in his path. Corvus's foot caught it perfectly, sending him flying through the air with the grace of a drunken asteroid. He landed face first in his own ice sculpture, which chose that moment to finally collapse, covering him in freezing purple slush. Seize him, the elderly official ordered, sounding almost bored. Guards who'd been working for Corvus immediately switched sides, survival instincts overriding paychecks. Kidnapping, extortion, attempted murder, the official listed, and, she sniffed delicately, violation of public olfactory standards. That cologne is absolutely criminal. I told you he was stinky, Arya shouted. Can we make that official? Put it in the arrest thingy? It's called a warrant, dear. Put it in the warrant. Being exceptionally stinky. The official's skin flickered with what might have been amusement. So noted. As guards dragged Corvus away, covered in purple slush and ego damage, he tried one last time. You can't do this. I have connections. You have the right to remain silent, Arthur interrupted. That's Earth law, but it seems pretty universal right now. The courtyard began emptying, guests fleeing before anyone could ask them questions about their association with Corvus. Within minutes, only Arthur, T, Arya, and the officials remained. The elderly official turned to them. The marriage is obviously annulled. Mr. Blade will face trial, though I suspect he'll take a plea deal to avoid the death penalty for threatening noble houses. She paused, studying Arthur and T with ancient eyes. However, should Lord Reeves and Lady Silverwind wish to formalize any relationship, Valerian law is quite specific. Noble houses require 500 days of official courtship. Arthur and T looked at each other. The silence stretched. Then T snorted. Arthur chuckled. Within seconds, they were both laughing so hard that Arya worried they'd broken. 500 days, T gasped. Of course it's 500 days. The universe has a sense of humor, Arthur agreed, wiping tears from his eyes. I already waited 500 days, Arya said, crossing her arms. Can we just count those? I kept very good records. I have charts. I'm afraid not, young one, the official said, though her skin shifted to a warmer purple. The law is specific. Documented courtship between the actual parties involved. That's stupid. Most laws are. Then why have them? Because without stupid laws, we'd have chaos. With them, we have organized chaos. Arya considered this. I guess that's better? Marginally. As the officials left, the three of them stood in the ruins of Corvus's wedding, purple slush everywhere, doves still circling confused, and somehow one musician still playing because no one had told him to stop. "So," Arthur said, "you're nobility." "So are you," T countered. "We're idiots." "Absolutely." "Why didn't you say anything?" Arya asked T. "We could have had better food, and clothes, and a pony." "What would you do with a pony on Dusthaven?" "Love it." T knelt beside her daughter. "I left that life because it was all money and no heart. Your father had heart. He had so much heart it barely fit in his chest." "Like Arthur?" T glanced at Arthur, her skin shifting to that soft purple pink he remembered from their one hug. "Yeah, like Arthur." Arthur cleared his throat. "So, 500 days of courtship, starting when?" "Starting when you take that ridiculous priest outfit off," T said. "You look like you robbed a funeral." "I look distinguished." "You look like you're about to perform last rites on fashion." "Mom's right," Arya added. "You look super weird." "I saved your mother from marriage to a crime lord." "While dressed like someone's dead uncle." Arthur looked down at himself. The robe had torn during Corvus's arrest. One sleeve was covered in purple ice sculpture, and somehow a dove had pooped on his shoulder without him noticing. "Okay, fair point." They walked back through the compound, Arya between them, holding both their hands. The girl practically vibrated with excitement. "So if we're all rich, can I get a chocolate fountain now?" "We'll see," T said. "That means no." "That means we'll see." "That still means no." Arthur squeezed her hand. "I'll get you a chocolate fountain." "Really?" "Really, but a small one." "How small?" "Drinking fountain small. That's just a chocolate tap." "Exactly." They emerged from the compound to find the rust bucket where Arthur had landed it, right next to Arya's sign. 500 days of waiting had weathered it, but the words were still clear. "Arthur's landing spot. No parking." "You kept it," Arthur said softly. "I told you," Arya said. "I knew you'd come back." "Even after 500 days, especially after 500 days. Anyone can come back after a week. Only someone special takes 500 days and still shows up." T laughed. "That's either very profound or completely insane." "Both," Arthur and Arya said simultaneously. As the sun set over Dusthaven, painting the sky orange and purple, they stood together. A failed courier who was secretly nobility, a bartender who was secretly an heiress, and a little girl who was secretly the wisest of them all. "So," T said, 500 days of courtship. Think you can manage not to get kidnapped by pirates this time?" "No promises, but I'll try." "And you'll stay this time?" Arya asked. "No more leaving?" Arthur looked at T, who was trying not to smile and failing. Her skin had settled into that purple pink that he was starting to think meant happiness. "I'll stay. Besides, someone needs to teach you proper card games." "My card games are perfect." "You made up half the rules. That's what makes them perfect." They argued all the way back to the rusty asteroid, where Old Ratchet had kept the bar running and badly. The regulars cheered when they walked in, having heard about Corvus's arrest through the gossip network that moved faster than light. "Drinks on the house," T announced. "You never give drinks on the house," someone called out. "Special occasion. I'm not getting married to a crime lord." "That's worth celebrating." As the bar filled with music and laughter, Arthur found himself behind the bar with T, washing glasses while she poured drinks. Their hands brushed as they worked, and her skin shifted colors he was still learning to read. 500 days, she murmured. 500 days, he agreed. "Think we'll make it?" Arthur watched Arya teaching the bar patrons her made-up card game, cheating outrageously and somehow getting away with it. With her keeping us honest? Definitely. She's going to be insufferable when she finds out she's technically nobility. She's 8. She's supposed to be insufferable. T smiled. A real smile, not the bartender smile she'd perfected. "Thank you for coming back. Thank you for waiting. I wasn't waiting. I was just existing in the same place until you showed up. That's literally waiting. Shut up and wash the glasses." They worked in comfortable silence, occasionally bumping shoulders while Arya's laughter filled the bar. 500 days of courtship stretched ahead, but after 500 days of separation, it seemed like nothing. Besides, Arthur thought, watching T's skin shift through purples and pinks as she laughed at something Arya said, some things were worth the wait, even if it meant eating canned beans for another 500 days. "Hey," Arya called out, "who wants to see my charts about Arthur's return probability? I use different colored crayons for each month." Definitely worth the wait. 1 year later, Arya Reeves Silverwind, age 9 3/4, the 3/4 was very important, stood at her corner adjusting flowers for the 100th time. The old wooden sign, "Arthur's Landing Spot, no parking," hung in a golden frame she'd insisted on buying with her own money. Well, technically Arthur's money, but she'd earned it by sorting packages for Purple Express delivery, so it counted. "The roses are crooked," she announced to Mr. Floppykins, her pink bunny recorder, now wearing a tiny bow tie for the occasion. "Everything has to be perfect. I waited 1,000 days for this if you count both waiting periods and math doesn't lie." The corner had transformed into something magical. Paper lanterns in purple and gold swayed in the breeze. Chairs borrowed from every establishment in New Tombstone formed crooked rows. The chocolate fountain, a real one from Earth, gurgled beside a table laden with food that wasn't from cans. "Arya, stop fussing and come get dressed," Mom called from the rusty asteroid. 5 more minutes." "You've said that 6 times. Then this is the 7th. But she ran back anyway, her purple skin shimmering with excitement. Mom stood in the bar wearing an actual wedding dress, not the horrible white thing Corvus had forced on her, but a flowing silver creation that made her look like starlight. Her skin kept shifting from purple to pink to a color Arya had learned meant, "so happy I might explode." "You look like a space princess," Arya breathed. "You think so? The prettiest space princess in the whole galaxy." Mom knelt down, fixing Arya's flower crown. "You know what? We're both space princesses, secret ones who serve drinks and deliver packages." "And fix spaceships," Arya added. "Arthur showed me how to recalibrate a fusion core yesterday." "Of course he did." Mom's skin did that thing where she pretended to be annoyed but was actually proud. "Is he ready?" "He's been ready since sunrise. Pip said he's paced a groove in the ground." They walked to the corner together, Arya carrying her basket of flower petals like precious cargo. The whole town had shown up, even the Dralaxians who usually avoided human Valerian events. Old Ratchet had polished himself until he actually looked presentable. The street kids from Arthur's Return Club wore matching bow ties Arya had made from spare fabric. Arthur stood at the makeshift altar wearing a suit that actually fit this time. His face did that thing humans did when they were trying not to cry, all scrunched but pretending to be normal. "Nobody better object," Arya whispered loudly as she walked down the aisle, spreading purple and gold petals. "I waited 500 days twice, and I've got rocks in my other pocket. Good throwing rocks. I practiced." Someone in the crowd laughed. Then everyone was laughing, even the stuffy Valerian officials who'd come to make it legal. The ceremony was perfect. Nobody fainted, nobody objected, and the doves, different ones, trained ones, actually flew in the right direction. When the officiant said Arthur could kiss Mom, Arya covered her eyes but peeked through her fingers. They kissed for exactly 6 seconds, she counted, and Mom's skin went supernova pink. "Ladies and gentlemen," the officiant announced, "I present Lord and Lady Reeves Silverwind." "That's my parents," Arya shouted, jumping up and down. "I found them and kept them, and now they're mine forever." Later, at the reception in the expanded Rusty Asteroid, now officially the worst coffee in the galaxy restaurant, Arya sat on her special stool, the one she'd claimed that first day Arthur walked in. Her business card, Arya Reeves Silverwind, professional promise keeper and part-time princess, was propped against her chocolate fountain. Yes, her chocolate fountain, with a plaque and everything. "Hey, kiddo." Arthur slid onto the stool beside her. "Good wedding?" "The best wedding. Nobody got arrested, the food isn't expired, and Mom smiled so much her face probably hurts." "Yeah, it was pretty perfect." He paused. "Thanks for waiting for me." "You already thanked me, like 1,000,000 times." "I'll probably thank you 1,000,000 more." Arya looked at him seriously. "You know what? You don't have to keep thanking me. Family shows up. That's what family does." Arthur's eyes did the crying but not crying thing again. "When did you get so wise?" "Tuesday." "Specific Tuesday?" "All Tuesdays. I collect wisdom on Tuesdays." Mom appeared, her dress swishing as she sat on Arya's other side. "What are we discussing?" "How I'm very wise and modest," Arya said. "The most modest," Mom agreed, kissing the top of her head. "Modest enough to let other kids ride Stardust sometimes." Stardust was Arya's pony. Well, technically, a Dust Haven pack beast that looked like a pony had made questionable life choices. But Arya loved him anyway. Maybe, if they're very careful and bring carrots. They sat together, watching the party unfold. Pip was teaching the Valerian officials Earth card games, the real rules, not Arya's versions. Old Ratchet was dancing with the elderly wedding officiant. The chocolate fountain gurgled contentedly. "Oh!" Mom grabbed Arthur's hand and placed it on her stomach. "Feel that?" "Was that?" "Your son saying hello." Arya's eyes went huge. "My brother is kicking? Let me feel." She pressed both hands against Mom's stomach, concentrating hard. There, a tiny flutter like a fish swimming. "He's real," she whispered. "I mean, I knew he was real, but now he's real. 6 more months of waiting," Mom said. Arya groaned dramatically. "More waiting? That's like 180 days. "Good math," Arthur said. "I've been practicing. I made charts for the baby too, growth projections and everything." Later that night, after the guests had gone home and her parents were slow dancing to no music in particular, Arya sat at her corner with Mr. Floppykins and her notebook. "Some things," she told the bunny, "are worth waiting for. Arthur was worth waiting for. The wedding was worth waiting for. Even baby brother will be worth waiting for, probably." She pulled out her newest chart, labeled Things to Wait for Volume 2. "But next time," she added, writing carefully, "I'm getting everything in writing. Contracts, signatures, maybe blood oaths if necessary." A shooting star streaked across Dust Haven's orange-tinted sky. Arya didn't make a wish. She'd learned that the best things came not from wishing, but from waiting and believing and sometimes throwing strategic toy spaceships at the right moment. "Come on, Mr. Floppykins," she said, tucking the bunny under her arm. "Let's go home." Home was the apartment above the restaurant now, with 3 bedrooms and 1 more being prepared. The chocolate fountain in the kitchen, parents who loved each other and her, a pony in the stable out back, a baby brother on the way. All because she'd waited at a corner for 500 days, believing in a promise. Pretty good trade, really. The end.